Red car, grumpy realtor. The speedometer needle kissed 80 as Clara's red sports car devoured the asphalt. Saturday. Ruined. She stabbed at the radio, settling on a thumping beat that did little to soothe her simmering resentment. Weekends were for brunch, not battling grumpy clients and their impossible demands. This deal could be her ticket to the corner office. The penthouse at the Elysian. A prize listing, reserved for the firm's top performers. And now, thanks to Miller's sudden family emergency, it was hers to close. She braked hard as she approached the entrance to the Elysian, the tires emitting a satisfying squeal. The building loomed, a monument to sleek, modern luxury, reflecting the cloudless sky in its mirrored facade. Clara smoothed down the skirt of her power suit, a crisp navy that screamed success. She needed this. Needed the commission, needed the recognition, needed to prove that she was more than just another pretty face in a real estate firm full of them. Saturday morning, she muttered, cutting the engine and grabbing her oversized handbag. Someone owes me big time. She caught her reflection in the tinted glass of the lobby doors. A quick application of lip gloss, a tug at her jacket to accentuate her waist, and a mental pep talk. You got this, Clara. $1 million listing? No problem. Inside, the air was cool and scented with something vaguely floral and undeniably expensive. The concierge, a man named David with a perpetually bored expression, barely glanced up from his tablet. Sterling, she announced, her voice a little too loud in the hushed space. David's eyes flicked up, assessing her with a disinterest that grated on her nerves. Mr. Hawthorne is waiting. Unit 3201. Thank you, David, she said, injecting a saccharine sweetness into her voice that felt entirely fake. She hated that she felt the need to be so polite. This was her listing now, wasn't it? She was entitled to a little respect. The elevator glided silently upwards. Clara took another deep breath, picturing the penthouse, the panoramic views, the gleaming marble countertops. This sale would catapult her ahead of Brenda, the office queen bee who'd been subtly sabotaging her at every turn. Brenda, with her condescending smiles and her constant reminders that she'd been in the business for years, darling. The elevator doors opened onto a private landing. The only door bore a discreet plaque, 3201. Before she could even knock, the door swung inward, revealing a man who looked precisely like she'd imagined, rumpled suit, thinning grey hair, a face etched with permanent dissatisfaction. This was going to be fun. Hawthorne, she asked, extending her hand. He took it with a surprisingly firm grip, his eyes, the color of a stormy sea, assessing her with a gaze that made her skin crawl. You're Sterling? You look young. Clara forced a smile. Experience comes in many forms, Mr. Hawthorne. And I assure you, I'm exceptionally well versed in luxury real estate. He snorted, a sound that suggested he doubted her expertise on everything from luxury real estate to the proper way to butter toast. Let's just get this over with. I have a tea time. The unexpected inquiry. Clara was meticulously straightening a stack of brochures when a shadow fell across her desk. Excuse me, a voice, soft but clear, interrupted her precise work. I was wondering about the penthouse suite. The one on Ocean Vista. Clara looked up, a practiced smile already forming on her lips. It faltered, just for a fraction of a second. Standing before her was a man who looked, well, ordinary. Mr. Fitzwilliam. She recalled the name from the sign-in sheet. He was dressed simply, a faded blue sweater tucked into khaki trousers that had seen better days. His shoes were scuffed, not the gleaming Italian leather she was accustomed to seeing on potential penthouse buyers. Her eyes flicked back to the glossy brochure depicting the rooftop pool and panoramic ocean views. This man? Buying that? Yes, the penthouse, she echoed, her voice regaining its professional sheen, though a subtle coolness had crept in. A truly exceptional property. Unparalleled views, state-of-the-art amenities, a real showcase. She delivered the rehearsed line smoothly, but her gaze lingered a moment too long on his worn leather belt. He didn't seem fazed by her practiced pitch or the almost imperceptible scrutiny. "Indeed," he replied, his eyes, surprisingly bright behind spectacles, holding a glint of amusement. "The brochure doesn't quite capture the feel of a place, though. I was hoping to see it." Clara tapped a manicured nail against the polished surface of her desk. "Of course. Are you pre-qualified?" The question, while standard practice, felt sharper than usual, laced with her unspoken doubt. He paused, his gaze drifting towards the expansive cityscape visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Sterling Realty office. "Pre-qualified," he repeated, as if the term was foreign to him. "I hadn't considered it necessary. I was simply hoping for a viewing." Clara's smile tightened. This was becoming tedious. She didn't have time for tire kickers, for dreamers who wasted her valuable hours. The Penthouse was a prize, a closing that could cement her reputation, and she wasn't about to squander the opportunity on someone who clearly couldn't afford it. "Sir," she began, her voice dripping with a saccharine politeness that masked her impatience, "the Ocean Vista Penthouse is an exclusive property. We require all potential buyers to demonstrate their financial capacity before scheduling a viewing. It's simply a matter of respecting everyone's time." She watched him carefully, waiting for the inevitable stammer, the awkward explanation, the retreat. She'd seen it all before. Men like him, drawn in by the allure of luxury, only to be crushed by the reality of the price tag. But Mr. Fitzwilliam didn't stammer. He didn't retreat. He simply looked at her, his expression unreadable, a hint of something that might have been disappointment flickering in his eyes. "I see," he said softly. "Perhaps I should have made an appointment." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, "I am staying at the Grand Meridian, room 1402, if you require any verification." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Clara staring after him, a knot of unease forming in the pit of her stomach. The Grand Meridian? Room 1402? That was the presidential suite. Dismissed. The door handle, burnished to a mirror sheen, reflected Clara's crimson-lacquered nails. She'd painstakingly crafted her greeting, a calculated equilibrium of charm and authority, yet confronted by Mr. Fitzwilliam, it tasted like ash in her mouth. He appeared even more disheveled than she recalled from his file, his tweed jacket askew, a telltale smear, perhaps from a pastry, adorning his lapel. "Mr. Fitzwilliam," she trilled, the picture shade too bright. "Delighted you could make it. Though, between us," she dropped her voice, leaning in with faux intimacy, "I couldn't help but glance at your recent performance. Rather underwhelming, wouldn't you say? The Sterling Penthouse is a significant commitment, after all." She gestured dismissively toward the skyscraper's crown, visible above the manicured grounds. A slow blink rippled across his face, a deliberate act that briefly threw her off balance. "Are you implying I lack the funds, Miss Sterling?" The nerve! He dared question her, stealing precious moments of her time. "Let's just say," Clara purred, adopting a concerned tone, "seeing is believing. And believing demands a certain financial infrastructure. One that your current trajectory doesn't necessarily project. Perhaps we should explore something more attainable. A chic studio downtown, perhaps? More aligned with your present standing, I suspect." She capped her pronouncement with a brittle smile. Before he could retort, she rushed on. "Right, I am dreadfully pressed, Mr. Fitzwilliam. Another appointment looming in, under 5 minutes. So, unless you have truly pressing inquiries." He simply stared, his gaze steady and unsettling. "I understand," he murmured, his voice barely audible. Clara misconstrued his quietude for surrender. "Splendid. Then I shall leave you to contemplate. Do enjoy the afternoon." With a sharp pivot, she swiped her security badge and all but sprinted through the revolving doors, abandoning Mr. Fitzwilliam to the urban currents. Inside, the palatial lobby, a symphony of marble and crystal, provided a haven. Clara smoothed the lines of her pencil skirt, the cool weave a welcome sensation against her skin. Masterfully executed. Efficient, cutting. No space for time wasters or lost causes. She conjured an image of Mr. Fitzwilliam trudging away, crestfallen. Good riddance. The Penthouse deserved a buyer with vision, with drive, with capital. Not a doddering relic clinging to yesterday. A ripple of self-satisfied warmth spread through her. She'd salvaged an hour, possibly more. An hour to cultivate genuine prospects, to cultivate connections with serious investors. An hour that would propel her closer to her own lofty aspirations. She straightened her blazer, her reflection staring back from the polished surfaces of the elevator doors. Clara Sterling, she whispered, the name a personal emblem of achievement. Premier broker. Deal maker. Success incarnate. The elevator doors parted, and she glided inside, leaving the ghost of Mr. Fitzwilliam behind, like a faded photograph. The air hung thick with the aroma of her expensive perfume as she ascended, higher and higher, further and further from the man she had so dismissively rejected. Bob's warning. The scent of freshly brewed coffee hung thick in the air of the community center's makeshift office. Clara, perched on the edge of a folding chair, tapped her pen against a stack of brochures. Honestly, Bob, I think I just saved us both a monumental waste of time. She beamed, her perfectly glossed lips reflecting the fluorescent light. Bob, a man whose face was a roadmap of kindness and concern, paused in his sorting of flyers. His brow furrowed slightly. Oh? And who was that, Clara? Some old codger, Clara waved a dismissive hand. Wanted to see the Penthouse. Said he was interested. You know how it is, all talk and no trousers, as my gran used to say. He reeked of mothballs and desperation. I told him it was by appointment only and ushered him out. No point in getting our hopes up, right? Bob's usually warm eyes clouded over. He placed the stack of flyers on the table with a soft thud. Clara, was that Mr. Fitzwilliam? Clara frowned, rummaging through her tote bag for her phone. Fitzwilliam, ring any bells? Nope. Doesn't matter anyway. The Penthouse is a big deal, Bob. We need serious buyers, not window shoppers. Clara, Bob said, his voice taking on a serious tone she hadn't heard before. Mr. Fitzwilliam was known for his generosity. He donated the land this community center sits on. And he's been quietly funding the after-school programs for years. He's not exactly someone you dismiss out of hand. He looked at her, concern etched into the lines around his eyes. He's a good man, Clara. A very good man. Clara pursed her lips, annoyance creeping into her voice. Look, Bob, I appreciate the history lesson, but I'm trying to close deals here. The commission on that penthouse alone could set me up for the rest of the year. I don't have time to entertain every Tom, Dick, and Harry who wanders in off the street. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling, her attention already drifting away from Bob and back to the shimmering possibilities held within the digital world. Bob sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. He knew that look in Clara's eyes. It was the look of someone blinded by ambition, someone who couldn't see beyond the dollar signs dancing in their head. He'd seen it before, in the cutthroat world of real estate, but he'd hoped Clara was different. He watched her for a moment, the clatter of her acrylic nails against the phone screen a counterpoint to the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights. He knew he couldn't force her to understand. Some lessons, he thought sadly, had to be learned the hard way. He simply said, just be careful, Clara. You never know who might surprise you. Clara barely looked up. Right. Thanks, Bob. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to confirm this showing for the Goldmans. They're pre-approved for over $1 million. She flashed a perfunctory smile, the warmth failing to reach her eyes. Bob watched her, a knot of unease tightening in his chest. The air in the small office suddenly felt colder, the scent of coffee doing little to dispel the chill that had settled in his bones. The picky couple. The limousine glided to a stop before the tower, mirrored panes ablaze with reflected sunlight. Clara adjusted her suit jacket, a nervous tic she couldn't quite suppress. This was it, the Hendersons, her ticket to real credibility at Sterling Properties, had arrived. The chauffeur, a model of starched precision, opened the rear door. First, a flash of scarlet soles, Louboutins, then a woman whose platinum hair seemed to generate its own light. Following her was a man, radiating an aura of inherited fortune so potent it left a metallic tang in Clara's mouth. "Honestly, darling," the woman drawled, a razor's edge of disdain sharpening her tone, "is this the best you could unearth?" The man, presumably darling, gave a languid shrug, his gaze sweeping the building's facade with cool appraisal. Sterling swore it was the most coveted address. Clara pasted on a smile. "Welcome to the pinnacle. The penthouse will, I assure you, surpass even this impressive exterior." She offered her hand, met with the briefest of pressures. "Brittany." "Chad," the man rumbled, his handshake a subtle power play. As they entered the lobby, Brittany's lip curled. "Good heavens, the decor is rather provincial, wouldn't you agree, Chad? All that beige. So utterly lacking in imagination." Clara's rehearsed welcome faltered. "We find the neutral palette offers maximum flexibility. Residents can tailor the space to their precise specifications." Chad offered a mirthless bark. "Tailor? We'd raise it to the studs and begin again. The real question is the view worth the trouble?" Clara ushered them toward the elevator, a chorus of anxieties clamoring in her mind. This sale had to happen. She needed to impress Sterling, to prove she was more than just a pretty face. The doors slid open directly into the penthouse. Brittany emitted a small, strangled sound of disapproval. "Heavens to Betsy, is that supposed to be cart? It looks like something my grandmother banished to the guest bathroom." Clara's composure frayed at the edges. "It's a commission piece by a respected local talent." "Respected locally, perhaps," Chad countered, stroking the marble countertop with a dismissive air. "The veining is rather pedestrian." "And is that gas?" "We're strictly induction." Clara swallowed a tart rejoinder. "The penthouse is infinitely customizable. An induction cooktop is easily arranged, alongside any other modifications you desire." Brittany drifted toward the panoramic windows, her face a study in disappointment. "The vista is acceptable. But I'd envisioned a more sweeping panorama. That eyesore over there is dreadfully distracting, wouldn't you concur, Chad?" Chad joined her, his expression mirroring her discontent. "Indeed, it does rather shatter the illusion of perfect isolation." "And what's that incessant hum?" "Is that traffic?" Clara's fingers clenched in her palms, nails biting into skin. "It's the city, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson. A certain degree of background ambience is inherent." She silently cursed the distant thrum of urban life. Brittany pivoted, her gaze sharpening. "I must confess, I'm rather underwhelmed. I anticipated so much more from the pinnacle. Perhaps we should explore other options, Chad. There's that new waterfront development." Desperation clawed at Clara's throat. "Please, Mrs. Henderson, allow me to present the master suite. It features a private balcony with unparalleled sightlines. I am confident it will surpass your reservations." The commission, her future, seemed to be dissolving before her very eyes. This sale, this insufferable couple, represented everything she thought she craved. But the effort to placate them was starting to feel degrading. Charity and kindness. The clinking symphony of cutlery and polite chit-chat receded into a muffled drone from Mr. Fitzwilliam. From across the expansive dining space, he observed Clara navigating the Ashworth family's tight-lipped disapproval, their incessant requests a persistent undercurrent of dissatisfaction. He marveled at her patience. He himself would have, with the utmost courtesy, shown them the exit long before now. Turning his focus back to Bob Miller, whose open face and authentic affability offered a pleasant contrast, he began, swirling the remnants of his wine. "Tell me, Bob, I've been meaning to inquire, which local charities are truly making a difference? I'm considering a donation." Bob leaned in, his gaze brightening with enthusiasm. "Well, now, that rather depends on where your passions lie. We've got some admirable options. The food bank is perpetually struggling, especially during the holidays. And the animal shelter performs miracles. He paused, lost in thought for a moment. However, for lasting change, I'd advocate for investing in our youth. Mr. Fitzwilliam offered a curt nod. My sentiments exactly. Education, perhaps. Precisely. Bob exclaimed, snapping his fingers for emphasis. Literacy, in particular. Think of it, placing books into the hands of children who lack them. It's transformative. Is there a specific organization dedicated to that cause? Mr. Fitzwilliam inquired, his curiosity piqued. Believe it or not, the library is in dire need of support. They offer several after-school programs designed to bolster reading comprehension, but their funding is perpetually precarious. They're constantly forced to curtail services, which is a crying shame. Bob frowned slightly. Mrs. Henderson, the head librarian, is a veritable saint. She dedicates untold hours, yet her resources are finite. Mr. Fitzwilliam tapped his finger pensively against his wine glass. What specific necessities are they lacking? Books are always in demand, of course. But it's much broader than that. They require updated computer systems for research and interactive learning. Cozy reading corners are needed, spaces that feel welcoming and secure. And they need volunteers, individuals willing to dedicate their time to reading with the children, assisting with homework. Bob's tone carried a sincere conviction. He noticed Mr. Fitzwilliam's expression, a thoughtful stillness that conveyed genuine engagement. A palpable desire to assist emanated from the man. I understand, Mr. Fitzwilliam stated deliberately. Perhaps I could schedule a meeting with Mrs. Henderson? I'd appreciate hearing about their challenges firsthand. Bob's face lit up with a wide smile. I can certainly arrange that. She'd be overjoyed. The truth is, he lowered his voice in a confidential manner, even a small contribution can have a profound effect in a community like ours. It truly can. He paused, a spark of playful mischief dancing in his eyes. Besides, you might even discover you enjoy it. Those children are sharp as tacks, just yearning for an opportunity to excel. Mr. Fitzwilliam's lips curved into a genuine smile, etching fine lines around his eyes. I suspect you're right, Bob. I have a feeling you're absolutely right. Penthouse problems. Clara swept her arm towards the floor-to-ceiling windows, a gesture she'd practiced in the mirror until it felt both natural and effortlessly glamorous. And here, of course, is the pièce de résistance. Below, the city sprawled, a glittering tapestry woven with lights and shadows. The river snaked through it all, reflecting the amber glow of the setting sun. Unrivaled panoramic views, wouldn't you agree? Penelope barely glanced at the vista. She was already circling the living room, her manicured nails drumming against her chin. I'm not sure about the feng shui, she announced, her voice laced with disapproval. The energy feels off. Across the room, Chad, who had been scrolling through his phone, looked up with a groan. Feng shui? Seriously, Penny? We haven't even bought the place yet. Darling, you know how important these things are. Especially with my upcoming gallery opening. The energy must be conducive to creativity. Clara's practiced smile tightened. She'd thought this would be an easy sale. Young, successful, clearly desperate to impress. The penthouse practically sold itself. Apparently, not. Perhaps, Clara interjected, her voice carefully neutral, we could discuss furniture placement. The space is incredibly versatile. She gestured towards the open-plan kitchen. Imagine a sleek, modern island here, perfect for entertaining. Penelope wrinkled her nose. That dreadful granite? It screams suburban McMansion, Chad. We'd have to replace it immediately. And the lighting. Far too harsh. Chad sighed, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. We're already over budget, Penny. Remember the yacht? The yacht was an investment. This, she gestured around the penthouse with a dismissive flick of her wrist, is an investment in our image. The argument escalated quickly, their voices rising to a sharp, unpleasant pitch. Clara watched, a growing sense of discomfort washing over her. The breathtaking view seemed to mock her, a silent reminder of the life she craved, a life these two were so casually dissecting and demeaning. "You always do this, Chad. You undermine my artistic vision. And you always spend my money, Penelope. We agreed on a budget." Clara cleared her throat, but they were too engrossed in their squabble to notice. She noticed the way Penelope's perfectly applied makeup seemed to crack under the stress, revealing the lines of exhaustion around her eyes. Chad's face, normally smooth and tanned, was now flushed and blotchy. Beneath the designer clothes and the extravagant lifestyle, they were just unhappy. The realization hit Clara hard. She had judged them, envied them, even. But now, witnessing their petty bickering, she saw only a hollow shell of a relationship, fueled by insecurity and a desperate need for validation. She grabbed her briefcase, the leather cool against her suddenly clammy hand. "Perhaps," she said, her voice firm, "we should reschedule. It seems you both need some time to discuss your priorities." Without waiting for a response, Clara turned and walked towards the elevator, leaving the arguing couple silhouetted against the panoramic view. The city lights, once so alluring, now seemed cold and indifferent. Lost sail, gained insight. The slam of the penthouse door echoed through the otherwise silent expanse. Clara stared at the now vacant space where the potential buyers had stood only moments before, her perfectly crafted smile dissolving into a frustrated grimace. "Unbelievable," she muttered, the word laced with venom. Absolutely unbelievable. They had seemed so promising at first, charmed by the panoramic views and the meticulously staged interior. Then the woman had started asking about property taxes, about homeowners association fees, about the structural integrity report. Sensible questions, yes, but Clara had sensed a shift, a tightening around the eyes that telegraphed doubt. And then the husband had chimed in, questioning the neighborhood's walkability score. It had all spiraled downwards from there, culminating in a terse exchange about the outdated appliances and a swift, silent exit. Clara kicked a stray throw pillow, the soft thud doing little to alleviate her simmering rage. This sale was crucial. The commission would have finally put her ahead, silencing the nagging voice in her head that whispered of inadequacy. She stalked to the bar, pouring herself a generous measure of the expensive scotch meant to impress clients. "Well, that went well," a voice drawled from the doorway. Mr. Fitzwilliam leaned against the frame, a twinkle in his eye. Clara rounded on him, ready to unleash her fury, but the sight of his calm, almost amused expression gave her pause. "They left," she stated flatly, the fight draining out of her. "So I gathered." He pushed himself upright and wandered into the living area, his gaze sweeping over the cityscape. Perhaps they weren't the right fit. Clara scoffed. "Everyone's the right fit for a penthouse with a view like this, if they have the money." Mr. Fitzwilliam chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "Ah, yes. Money. An interesting concept." He paused, then turned to her, his expression unexpectedly serious. "I was speaking with Bob Miller earlier, from the library. They're struggling to keep their literacy programs running." Clara frowned. "That's unfortunate, but what does that have to do with anything?" "I'm planning on making a rather substantial donation," he said, almost casually. "Enough to keep them afloat for quite some time, perhaps even expand their outreach." Clara blinked, the scotch suddenly tasting like ash in her mouth. The library. Bob Miller. She remembered Bob's enthusiastic pitch, his worn tweed jacket and the glint of passion in his eyes as he spoke about the importance of reading. She had dismissed him as a well-meaning nuisance, another distraction from her pursuit of high-end sales. You're giving a lot of money to the library," she stammered, the question sounding foolish even to her own ears. Mr. Fitzwilliam smiled gently. "Indeed. I believe in investing in the community, in giving back. A penthouse, after all, is just bricks and mortar. Education, opportunity. Those are the things that truly matter." The air in the room seemed to thicken, the opulent surroundings suddenly feeling suffocating. Clara stared at Mr. Fitzwilliam, truly seeing him for the first time. not as an obstacle, not as a waste of her time, but as a man of quiet wealth and profound generosity. The lost sale stung less now, replaced by a growing sense of shame and a nascent understanding that success might mean something entirely different than she had always believed. A change of heart. Clara found Mr. Fitzwilliam in the building's small, seldom-used garden. He was carefully deadheading roses, his movements surprisingly delicate for a man his size. Sunlight glinted off the few remaining strands of silver hair he possessed. "Mr. Fitzwilliam," Clara said, her voice tight. She'd rehearsed the apology a dozen times in the elevator, but now the words felt inadequate, flimsy things. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "Miss Sterling. I wasn't expecting to see you again." He clipped another rose, the sound sharp in the quiet air. Clara took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology. My behavior yesterday was inexcusable. I was rude, dismissive, and I jumped to conclusions based on nothing but appearances. That's not how I want to be." Mr. Fitzwilliam placed the clippers on a nearby bench. He didn't speak, just watched her with those clear, intelligent eyes. "I understand if you don't want to work with me," Clara continued, the words tumbling out. "I wouldn't blame you. But I truly am sorry." A small smile touched the corners of his mouth. "Apology accepted, Ms. Sterling. Though, I must confess, your change of heart comes a little late." Clara frowned. "Late? What do you mean?" "I've made my decision," he said, gesturing toward the building with a nod of his head. "I won't be purchasing the Penthouse." Clara's stomach dropped. This was worse than she'd imagined. "But why? Did my behavior influence your decision?" "Indirectly, perhaps," Mr. Fitzwilliam said thoughtfully. "Yesterday, I was leaning towards acquiring the Penthouse. The view, the space, it was all very appealing. But then I started thinking about what I truly wanted. What would bring me the most satisfaction in the long run?" He paused, looking out at the cityscape beyond the garden wall. "I've been fortunate in my life, Miss Sterling. I have more than I need. And I realize that what I truly desire is to give back, to make a lasting difference." He turned back to Clara, his eyes holding a quiet intensity. "I've decided to donate a substantial sum to the city library system. Bob Miller has some truly innovative literacy programs he's trying to get off the ground, and I believe my contribution will be far more valuable there than it would be in a luxury apartment." Clara felt a wave of shame wash over her. Her superficial judgment had cost her a significant commission, yes, but it had also deprived the city library of vital funds, at least temporarily. She had prioritized her own selfish ambition over something truly important. "I understand," Clara said, the words catching in her throat. She did understand, finally. She understood the depth of her mistake. That evening, Clara drove to the library. It was nearly closing time, and the building was quiet, the air thick with the scent of old paper and the hushed murmur of turning pages. She found Bob Miller in his office, surrounded by stacks of books and grant proposals. He looked tired, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Clara! What a surprise! What can I do for you?" Clara hesitated. I wanted to apologize, Bob. For my attitude, for being so focused on myself and my commission. I was wrong to dismiss your work as just a library. It's so much more than that." Bob leaned back in his chair, a surprised look on his face. "Well, this is unexpected." "Thank you, Clara." "I know an apology isn't enough," Clara continued, "but I promise I'll do better. I want to be more considerate, more aware of the impact my actions have on others. And I'd like to help, if I can. With the library, I mean." Bob smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "That's very generous of you, Clara. We could always use volunteers, or help with fundraising. But honestly, just acknowledging the value of what we do here means a lot." Clara nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. Maybe, just maybe, she could turn things around. maybe she could become the person she secretly longed to be. A person worthy of respect, not just because of her professional success, but because of her character.